Hello and welcome to the NHL Best Bets. Yesterday wasn't any kind of great night for our picks because we had two games there, not these ones, but here Minnesota in St. Louis. We thought Minnesota would get some kind of boost from their great victory against Colorado, but they thought that maybe this one victory was enough to show that they can play with the top teams, and there was a basically complete meltdown in St. Louis. Home team won at the end 9-1, so that was one of the biggest losses for a single team during this season. And then New York local matchup, Rangers against Islanders. Rangers was more efficient in scoring. They won 4-1. Islanders shot, I think, 3 or 4 times the pipes, but that doesn't count. This time home team with their great home record and good form and good back-to-back history wasn't good enough for a win, so only red for yesterday. Tommy, do you think these were not so great picks?
It's hard to justify our picks with these sort of scores. But show me a guy who has predicted that St. Louis Minnesota game, and I show you a liar, because that's something that was very, very unlikely to happen. The game was over after the first period. It was 4-1 already. So Minnesota didn't really show up. They played really subpar their level. So it was an off night for that team. St. Louis Blues played well, maybe not as well as the score would indicate, 9-1. I think there were only 4 players and the goaltender who did not mark a single point in this game. So a lot of good performances for St. Louis, something that they did deserve and what they did need in this point of the season when they have been struggling a lot and still have a chance to maybe push for the playoffs. And this was a good sort of boost for that home team. But pretty bad pick from us. Minnesota let us down big time. And in New York, I would say that was more of a better pick. Islanders had their chances, got a goal disallowed. Very close game, but 1-4 score in the end. Rangers scored an empty netter, so almost could have been a 1-goal game. Rangers played well, nothing to take away from them. Islanders did not perform as well as they have, especially defensively. So they allowed Rangers to play to their strengths, which they should have not done. So a good win for Rangers, maybe a bit bad pick for us, but let's see. We've usually done well with the Islanders, so let's keep on checking how they play. A couple of new guys, maybe a little bit of a mix-up there, so let's see if they improve.
Yeah, Rangers was very quick to turn around the game. They took some takeovers and they quickly attacked after those, so that was something that Islanders couldn't counter in their setup.
Yeah, Rangers played very similar to how Islanders would usually play, so that was probably one of the reasons why Islanders were a little bit caught by surprise, maybe that because they couldn't play their own style, so it went to Rangers' way when the Islanders had to try to control the puck, which they're not very good at. So Rangers hit back. It was a good effort from the Rangers, and I'm impressed by the way that they kind of changed their way of playing when they faced the Islanders.
Yep. Then a few other games, what we discussed yesterday, no surprises. Washington won Buffalo on the road, and Colorado did same for Anaheim. And these big favorites, what we discussed, Pittsburgh also won New Jersey on the road. So this time big favorites did what was expected.
Yeah, but this is a good show. We had 4 correct out of the 7 games, but still made a loss of -93 altogether because of those odds for those big favorites were around. We made a profit each game, 59, 44, 29, and 75 from San Jose. So if you don't get enough of these picks right in a one round, you make a loss even if you are more correct than wrong.
Let's forget last night, continue to tonight 10 game schedule, and we have there are a few good picks set up. Chicago goes to Columbus. Both teams have struggled a bit. Columbus won Tampa in game earlier this week, but one win doesn't bring too much to the team that has struggled, especially in scoring. Patrick Laine's trade hasn't created any new offense, maybe decreased a bit when Mr. Dubois is not playmaking there anymore. And both teams have good goalies, Kevin Lankinen, our boy in Chicago, and then depending Latvian Elvis or Mr. Korpisalo in Columbus, both can shut down the offenses of any team, and that's the reason why we have selected all under 5.5 goals with good value here, odds minus 108. And then another game, Edmonton goes to Calgary, matchup of Alberta. Well-known fact is that Calgary is not the best home team in this league. They have also struggled quite a bit recently. 2 victories out of last 10 games, actually 1 out of last 9 games. Edmonton has played better. They have a strong offense since they put those two golden eggs to the same basket. McDavid and Draisaitl have led league in points and have devastated the opposing defenses in last games. So even though Calgary tries to defense their goal, that may be not enough, and good value for road favorite, minus 110.
Yeah, great picks. I think these are kind of these sort of picks are that we are making our profit from. Columbus, Chicago, it's an kind of an obvious under. Both teams, great goaltending, something they can rely on. Both teams struggling a little bit offensively. Chicago has pretty much only one line capable of producing goal-scoring chances with Patrick Kane and Dominik Kubalik. Alex DeBrincat, of course, has to be mentioned as well, but usually it's only one line, and their power play is okay, so that's how they can score. They're not creating a lot of chances, and against Columbus, it will be a tough matchup. It will be a really physical game. How Columbus plays, especially at home under John Tortorella, they are aggressive. They are giving a lot of pressure for the Chicago defense. They are trying to create a lot of turnovers, which Chicago will probably have to give up, which means that they are going to play defensively as well. Columbus, like you mentioned, really bad offensively. Not Patrick Laine hasn't done anything in there. Their game started to be more or less more defensive after Laine joined the team, which is surprising because that's something that they tried to get away from. They are known to be a very grinding team, a very defensive one. But with these sort of additions, they tried to make it more mobile and more, let's say, modern hockey team, but they haven't succeeded at that at all. So not a lot of goal scoring chances, not a lot of goal scoring either, but good goaltending, great defensemen. So I do think this game is very even. 2 goals per team is the most likely result here. In the simulations, 60% of the games go under 5.5 goals. So great value for the under. I was expecting a lot lousier odds for this. And then our favorite again, Calgary at home against Edmonton. So 2 teams that we've been predicting really well. Calgary at home, not impressive. They also have struggled goal scoring a lot. Since the coaching change, they have kept the offense of the opponents in check, but haven't managed to score any goals. And then you take Edmonton Oilers with Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, and also now they're getting more production from the defense in the offensive end. So they are going to score some goals against Calgary, even if Calgary tries to kill off the game. And I do think that this is 3-4 goals for Edmonton and maybe 1-2 for Calgary. A close matchup, but we do have great value for Edmonton. 55% in the simulations, while the odds indicate around 50. So very close game expected by the odds makers. We do think that Edmonton is much better team.
We have also a few other games there, a bit similar setup as Edmonton, Calgary. So road teams have some value as a favorite. Biggest one is naturally Tampa against Nashville, but then yesterday's blunder, Minnesota have back-to-back game now in St. Louis. They have also some value, even though bookmakers now think that St. Louis is the favorite. Our simulations not agree with this one. And then our winning pick from 2 nights ago, Winnipeg in Montreal in second game in a row. Same thing, bookmakers quite heavily on Montreal, but simulations think that Winnipeg can repeat the victory. Do you think these road favorites in our simulations can do what simulation expect?
I do think so. I think, Nashville has played a little bit better. They're facing Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay, when they have been struggling, they usually bounce back quite fast. So I do think Tampa Bay is a justified favorite there, 68% for them to win at Tennessee. So I do think Tampa is that much better team that they will take the victory here. Probably quite close game, but still a road favorite to take this one. Very interesting matchup, the repeat of last night in St. Louis with Minnesota bouncing back from 9-1 defeat. I do think they are a lot better team than what we saw last night. So not a lot of video may be needed after that kind of a loss to motivate the guys to perform better. St. Louis are a team that will probably forget this victory. They do need to win again in order to fight for the playoff spot. But I think it's not going to be another blowout by Blues. I think it will be a lot closer game, a lot more defensive affair, and Minnesota will show up from the first second. So they are favorites in the simulations for 55%, and the odds are turning against them. So there might be a good spot to pick this one, especially when the game gets closer, if the odds keep on moving towards St. Louis. So I do think Minnesota might take this one. And in Montreal, of course, we love to play against the Canadiens. So with these odds, again, I think Winnipeg Jets is constantly undervalued by the bookmakers. Now the odds are somewhere around plus 130. While the simulations show 52%. So it's going to be a close game. Of course, when it is the second game against the same opponent, it's likely that the loser of the first game will be a little bit maybe playing with a chip on their shoulder and maybe motivated to get to even out the series. But still, these odds for Winnipeg, I would go 100 times out of 100 times for the Jets in this case.
You mentioned that Edmonton and Calgary are teams that we've generated good profit based on the simulations. I think we have another game also with two teams that we have been very profitable when Boston goes to Philadelphia, and their home team is projected to win this game, but bookmakers think other way around. Boston has played their rookie goaltender Jeremy Swayman for last 2 games, and he has played remarkably well. Do you think he continues his hot hand, or will this be some kind of letdown in a third game in a row?
These kind of things is really hard to predict, of course. The young guy played really well in his first games, 2 victories out of 2 games that were not easy against Philadelphia and Washington. He saved, I think, 50 shots almost against Washington and 30 something against Philadelphia. So not easy games for the young guy, but we've seen time and time again that coming into the NHL for a young goaltender, at first you're pumped up, you get everything, and then it might change really fast. So it's a little bit a question of how he will manage this load. He's been now playing, he's going to play now 3rd game in a row. But in simulations, we do have Philadelphia winning. We have been predicting Philadelphia do a lot better than they have. But we do have, plus, like you said, these 2 teams, Boston altogether from all Boston Bruins games, we are plus 991. And the same thing for Philadelphia. we are plus 428. So we've been doing well, these two teams. Let's see how this goes, but I do think it's going to be a very close game. And Boston has struggled somewhat in all aspects of their game. Like if you take a look, the difference between last year and this year, Boston is nowhere near as good a team as they were.
Let's see how they perform on the road now against Philadelphia, that has had their own problems as well, especially in goaltending. But tonight is new game, and you can reborn your different areas and show us that, hey, we are better than your predictions are.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to also do better. Minus 200 is unacceptable.
Let's see how much we can get green tonight. Game starts earlier, so be ready to follow those until the last whistle or horn in East Coast game where San Jose and Los Angeles play another back-to-back game.
See you tomorrow.